This week, I want to start with something personal before I get into business. My wife, Kari, finished her radiation treatment this week. She's done. Treatment is complete. And you know what? I just want to say out loud, because she's been showing up every single day through all of this, showing up for our kids, showing up for me, showing up for herself, and I am just so incredibly proud of her. So this one is dedicated to her. Okay, let's get into it. Nobody talks about this part. When you build a business with family, you're not just managing a company, but you're carrying two relationships at once. And here's the part that keeps you up at night. They're connected. If the business struggles, the relationships can suffer. And if the relationship gets hard, the business can suffer. There's no clean line, no leave it at the office. And if you've ever been there, you probably know exactly what I mean. I joined my dad's ActionCOACH business back in 2020. He had built something real, something that mattered, and I came in to help him grow and scale it. What I didn't fully understand when walking in the door was that some of the hardest conversations that I would have in business wouldn't actually be with a client, but they'd be at the dinner table. I'm going to tell you what I've had to learn about building a business with someone you love and why most people get it exactly backwards. So stick with me. So if this is your first time on the channel, my name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm the CEO of ActionCOACH Central Texas, and I'm on the journey this year to retire my parents by the end of 2026, which gives us roughly 10 months to go at time of this recording. Here's what most people think the challenge is when you bring family into a business. They think it's going to be awkward. They think it's going to be emotional. They think it's about keeping peace at Christmas dinner. That's not actually the problem. The problem is structural. When roles aren't clear, every decision becomes personal. And when financials are blurry, every conversation carries a little bit of extra weight. When the organization chart has gaps, you fill those gaps with relationships. And that's when it gets expensive. Not just financially, relationally. I have lived this and I'm still living it today. And what I've learned is that the answer isn't to manage the relationship better. It's to build the business structure strong enough so the relationship doesn't have to carry the load. So let me give you 3 things that I've had to install, not to grow faster, but to protect what actually matters. Number 1, separate roles in writing, not in your head, but in writing. When my dad and I started working together, we both knew what the other one did, roughly. The problem with roughly is that when stress showed up, a bad month, a hard client conversation, a disagreement on strategy, rough becomes blamed. We had to actually write it down. Who owned what? Where do the decisions live? What requires both of us and what doesn't? Not because we didn't trust one another, but because we trusted each other too much to let a blurry organization chart damage what we built outside of the business. If you're in a family business right now and your roles exist only in your head, that's a structural problem. And that structural problem is dressed up likely as a relationship problem, which brings us to number 2. Financials have to be clean, no assumptions. This one is uncomfortable for a lot of family businesses because money and family, well, they have a complicated history for most people. So here's the truth. Nothing creates resentment faster than financial ambiguity. Who's getting paid what the distributions look like, how decisions get made, and when cash gets tight. When those things aren't written down and they're not agreed to, you're not protecting the relationship. You're setting it up to absorb the damage when things get hard. We use a formal operating agreement. We have clear financial structures. We review the numbers together. It's not because we're formal people. It's because, well, I love my dad and I still want to be having dinner with him 20 years from now. So number 3, build communication rhythm that isn't reactive. This is the one that most people skip. When you work with family, it's easy to think you're always communicating because, well, you're always around one another. But proximity isn't communication. So we build a cadence, regular meeting structure where we review the business, have hard conversations, and leave all the personal stuff at the door. Not because we can fully separate them. I think it honestly is hard to be able to do so. But having a container for the business conversation means that it doesn't bleed into everything else. Your family relationships are too important to be the default venue for all of your business conflict. So here's the thing about building with family that no one will tell you. The wins feel different. When we hit a milestone, when we close a big client, when the team executes something that we've been building towards, there's a layer to that moment that most business partners will never experience. You're not just celebrating a result, you're celebrating it with someone who watched you grow up, someone who took a bet on you, someone who shares what this means beyond just the P&L. That part is real. And honestly, it's probably one of the most important things worth protecting. But you protect it the same way that you protect anything else that matters. You build structure around it. Systems aren't the opposite of relationship. They're what makes the relationship sustainable. The business structure has to be strong enough to carry the relationship when things get hard. Because guess what? They will. That's not a threat. That's just business. Remember when I said that the hardest conversations aren't with the clients? They're still true. I still have them. But here's what's different now. When I walk into a hard conversation with my dad or my parents in general about the business, about a decision, about a direction that we're looking to take, I'm not walking in with ambiguity as a weapon. We have the roles written down. We have the financials clear. We have a rhythm that holds the relationship when the business is demanding. That doesn't make every conversation easy, but it means we can have the hard ones without threatening what we've built together. And that's the goal. So if you're building a business right now with a parent, a sibling, a spouse, a partner, I want to ask you one question. Is your business structure strong enough to protect the relationship when things get hard? Not if, when. If you're not sure, that's worth sitting with. I'm documenting this whole journey in public, the hard parts, the real parts, the parts that don't make the highlight reel. If that's useful to you, subscribe and follow along. We're building this together. That's the week. We celebrated Kari finishing treatment. We kept building. We kept showing up. That's what this is about. As always, let's go build some amazing businesses together.